Uhuru, comrades at the Black is Back Coalition. I will be really making a presentation that the Barons have already done a really brilliant job in laying out, and I hope I can be introducing just a couple of contributing points. But I just want to reiterate something I said yesterday, was that the first electoral campaign school I went to, hosted by the Black is Back, was in 2017, when it was determined that the African Socialist Party, would be running candidates for office. And I really learned so much from watching Brother Charles Barron present, and just how he was, and very firm in his position, as a revolutionary in electoral politics. And I'm not alone when I say that that was a very foreign type of thing to see, as somebody who truly, genuinely represents the interests of the African working class, the Black community, unapologetically, and to do it, in this arena that has, historically been dominated by the bourgeoisie and the petty bourgeoisie. So it was a breath of fresh air. It gave me confidence to be able to go in there and challenge, and bring this platform of the African working class into this fold. And of course, the leadership of the chairman and the teachings and everything that the chairman provided, he was the campaign strategist of this whole process. So I just wanted to say that before beginning, and like to get my slides up. So again, this is going to be hopefully adding just some additional points that's already been laid out, because Sister and Comrade Inez Barron has done such a brilliant job in really laying out what's needed to run for office, and to run a successful campaign, and to win. So this is Running for Office, Black Power Candidates Edition. So how to run for office on a platform that speaks to the genuine interests of the Black community. Obviously, no sellouts allowed. Sister Inez mentioned that, you have to identify someone that's not going to fold, who's going to be able to carry this thing with confidence, and is going to be able to be disciplined. It's going to be able to be principled in, our stance and how we're representing, because we're not just representing ourselves, we are representing an entire community, and functioning as the voice of that community. And that person has to be very bold and very determined, to defend and to really push forward this program that is bold, that is visionary, and it's deemed radical. It's the Black community fighting for power, and that's a radical thing to do, in this country when power has been stripped from you. So we have to have real determined forces that are going to be able to carry out this strategy. One, you have to have the courage and enthusiasm to continue, which when you build a social movement, when you build this campaign, when you're out there on the ground with the masses, there's no way you don't have the courage and enthusiasm. Establish your campaign committee, a real campaign, a campaign that's actually determined to build a movement and to win in office. You're going to have a campaign committee. There's no way that you can do this as one person. We've seen in the past, protest candidates and things like that, which might be strategic for different reasons. But when we're talking about beating a machine, you have to have organization. You have to have people involved in that process, leading different areas of work. So do not think that you can make this whole thing happen off of your brilliance, alone. That this is something that requires actual human beings to participate and be a part of an organized structure. And then create your platform, and you don't have to go look too far. You have the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination that's been presented by the Black is Back, and you have certain points of that platform that you can highlight that you think will speak directly to, specifically to some of the problems and concerns that you're most often hearing from the community that you're working to represent. Know the issues, back and forth, not just your platform, but know the issues, actually know the contradictions, what it is that people are confronted with, what they're saying about the problems that they have to deal with that the government has not addressed. Know those issues in and out, because your platform is going to speak to those issues. It's already been mentioned about the real importance of fundraising. As a campaign that's not going to be part of the status quo, that does not have the same types of backing and endorsements as those who represent the Democratic Party machine. you're going to have to raise a lot of money. And just to say, in our elections in 2017, it was one of the most expensive mayoral races ever. And it was because we intervened. They had to, we outworked them. So they had to get more and more and more money to be able to contend with what it is that we were doing. And so they raised collectively the two mayoral candidates that were, running against our movement had to collectively raise over $1 million to be able to contend with the work that we were doing. And so we're not going to be able to have $1 million. I mean, we're going to have to really build a movement from, the ground up and raise the dollars that are coming from the people that are actually working and supporting your campaign. So we have to be in a constant process of fundraising. Everything we do, there should be some kind of fundraising element to it. Educating the masses, extremely critical. Media coverage, obviously the bourgeois media does not work for us, but there are ways in which, as Sister Inez said, that we can manipulate and get the kind of media coverage that we need to get the name recognition, to get the election visibility out there, and to even let the people know that an election is happening. Shatter the decorum. I'll talk about that a little bit later, what that means. Your outreach, your ground game, that's like the essential core. Next to fundraising is like the crux of what it is that you're going to be doing. Your debate tactics, get out the vote strategy, building a people's movement, and victory. And those two things, building a people's movement and victory, that's the same thing, because you have one aspect, which is winning the seat, whatever it is that you're running for. But there's the part that's even greater than that, that's more important than that, is the movement that you've been able to build as a consequence of intervening in the electoral process. And that you being able to win a seat is meaningless if you do not have a movement and a platform that has to hold you accountable. Because you can get in there, you can say a bunch of things like we know politicians do, and then flip and start working for white power. But if you have a people's movement behind you, you have a requirement. You have to be accountable to those people that work to get you into that position. And then, of course, that social movement doesn't go anywhere. It's there, and it's constantly working on these issues that you've presented through the electoral process. So that's victory for us, is that movement that we've been able to build, on the ground as a consequence of our intervening. So we can go to the next slide. So ask yourself, why am I running for office? And this is a critical question because, we can go back, sorry. So this is a critical question because, we're not interested in people who, think, well, I'm so great. And that's the only thing that distinguishes me from the politicians that represent the status quo. We're looking for somebody who can adopt this 19-point platform, who can say Black community control of the police, who can say reparations are owed to the Black community, that my community is oppressed, it is exploited, and this is the basis for why I'm running for office, not because of some self-perceived significance, brilliance, or anything to that effect. This is not about us as the person who's running for office. This is about the community that we are, saying we need to we want to represent. So that's a question that we have to ask ourselves. Why am I running for office? And this determines whether or not you'll have the stamina to keep going forward. So we can go to the next slide. So laying out the groundwork, establishing this is what the African People's Socialist Party did to establish our electoral campaign. We retrieved, all the materials that aid in the preliminary research. So how do you run for office? And this is what this school is for, because this is not something that we're taught in any classroom. I mean, certainly never taught this in a way where we'll be able to use this for in our advantage. So we had to go through candidates' guidebooks. We went through the maps of the city. We looked at numbers like population and budgets. What has the city government been doing and where have they been spending money? Where is things more allocated to? Because those will come up in the issues. Upcoming policy changes, if there are any articles regarding the current administration, and even historically, want to be able to use this to kind of show the history, to show the pattern of betrayal and exploitation of our community, et cetera. So all of these things are really important because this starts to gear up the process of defining the narrative of this campaign. So consolidating committee, you need a good team to beat the machine. So you'll need your campaign manager. secretary, these are at minimum. This is certainly not an extensive list. Your fundraiser, your treasurer, your field director who organizes, what the ground game is going to look like. You need your media relations coordinator, social media coordinator. And like I said, not an extensive list, more and more participation. You always want to have a process of signing people up to volunteer throughout the campaign structure. So, but these are some of the core roles that you'll definitely need. Like, you really can't get too far without somebody who manages the campaign, somebody who is, taking all of the events, all of the minutes, everything, that the secretary, that backbone of your committee, your fundraiser, you can't do anything without the money, and field director, you can't do anything without that outreach. So these are some of the core positions of your campaign committee you want to get filled expeditiously. In fact, before you start running for office, you should probably already have a general idea of who those persons can be. And this is just a photo of one of our campaign events, and with some core members of our campaign team. And these were like volunteers that came out and did, anything we needed them to do. They were always there throughout the campaign. So this was from 2019. So developing the platform, raising important issues, and challenging the status quo. So as mentioned, you already have the 19-point platform that's been put forward by the Black is Back Coalition, so you don't have to look too far. How you want to frame your campaign platform, what it is that you're running for, as mentioned, you want to have a great slogan, something that's memorable. And, we've used things like a new beginning, revolutionary times, revolutionary solutions. And one of the most popular slogans that we've used and we continue to use up to date is unity through reparations. And the other one that we used to combat, to fight, and to expose the gentrification that was happening, African people is happening, was make the South Side Black again. So you had, colonizers in this country who were able to say MAGA and all this kind of stuff. Well, we said make the South Side Black again, as, direct contending with, that whole concept, that whole idea. So those were things that are very much forward, in your face, and makes very clear this is what we stand for. And some of the platform points that we printed on our palm cards, our literature that we distributed, was reparations and genuine economic development for the Black community control of the police, and an end to the anti-Black rigged election system, affordable housing, end to gentrification, and quality, relevant Black education. Raising campaign resources, so no big money corruptions. They say, like, when in terms of, who funds you, feeds you, et cetera, and that's the person that you represent. And so we don't, big money corruption, big land developers, gentrifiers, those super PACs, all that kind of stuff. That's what your opponent is being funded by, because that's who they work for. But you work for the people. And so that's where your resources are going to be coming from. Fundraisers are critical because your opponents do have big money backers. You have to be constantly engaged in the act of fundraising. So do not be shy. I always hear people say that this is kind of an awkward point for them to ask for money. This is what we have to do. And the churches do it all the time. You have to be able to, ask and raise those funds to be able to carry out this campaign that's representing our community. So, you're going to need money for literally every aspect of this campaign. So do not be afraid to raise money. And again, everything you do should have some kind of fundraising component attached to it. Fundraising ideas include: one, going to the core, talking to your friends and your family, ask for donations with every signature. Or for instance, we took the option of getting enough petition signatures to get our names on the ballot rather than like paying that fee. And we did that because it was part of building that social movement. So, that's what we did. We going out with our petition, getting those signatures. We say, can you donate at the same time? Obviously, online donations, seek endorsers, and community event appeals. And pay attention, raising resources and the accounting for is very, very strict. And I just want to say this about movements, past, and especially like the movement that was led by Marcus Garvey, and how the whole question of the economic development component of our organizations throughout history have always been attacked. So they're always looking at the money trail, always looking at an opportunity to undermine our work through that aspect. And right now, even with this attack on our movement, they're placing economic sanctions, on us and on our projects that we brought to this community. So the whole economic questions, these are things that they are always in the process of trying to discredit. So it's very important for us to be very, very, detailed with our accounting procedures and things of that nature. So, and I'll also say to that, I want to shout out our fundraiser, our treasurer at the time, my mother and me, who had to deal with entering all of those finance reports, and had to deal with in 2019, we winning so much support for the reparations campaign that we actually crashed their system because we had so many donations flooding in at once. We raised something like $13,000 in like the course of 48 hours because of a video that had been seen that had gone viral throughout the world. In fact, we had so much money coming from all different places, we had to send stuff back because we weren't allowed to accept, contributions from a foreign country. So, but we crashed their system. They didn't even know what to do with that kind of support. So having a very diligent treasurer, can really aid you in those kinds of events. So anyway, educate the masses, create the opportunity for the people to learn the platform and understand why they should unite with it. You can host town halls, weekly campaign rallies, protests/demonstrations, community concerts, candidate forums. Get creative. Do not be stifled by, well, this is how people have done things. No, think outside of the box and go to the people. That is your base. That is who's going to support you. And I also want to say something that was unique about our campaign is that we incorporated, registering people to vote when we were doing outreach, because, most Africans that we were engaged with and was talking to, are disillusioned by the electoral process. And so there's never been anything to vote for. So there's never been a need to register to vote. And so we were in the process of registering people to vote, and even people who were determined that they were not able to vote because they were labeled felons and things like that, which we discussed yesterday. We brought them into the campaign and said, well, there's a place for you. So even if you're not allowed to vote, become a part of this process and have your voice heard and your interests recognized by virtue of supporting this campaign. So, but again, educate the masses and create the opportunities all the time to be out there in front of the people and get creative. We can go to the next slide. And so this is just an example of a demonstration. I mean, and there's always something like this. I mean, the police never stop murdering African people. And, with this technology and things like that, it's visible, it's everywhere. So we take these issues like, in 2017, we were at the same time fighting this campaign, we were in a struggle with the Pinellas County sheriffs for murdering 3 teenage Black girls. So we used that and we made that struggle a part of the campaign, and to say this is why we need Black community control of the police, because the Pinellas County sheriffs, the police forces in our community, are killing our children and killing our people and putting us in prison and things like that. So we use that to raise up the the need for people to vote for this campaign. So these are the types of things that you can do. So again, this is an example of a demonstration, a community march that we led in St. Pete. And we also had, in 2019, we actually did get a campaign office, and it was right on a highly visible corner in the African working class community. And so right here, you see pictured here, we had, this campaign office opening, and we had the people come out to like this cookout that we were doing, out in the front, passing out literature and things like that. And then participating in local events. So even if it's not an event organized by your campaign should always be looking at what's going around in the area and how can you be there? How can the campaign be there? Can the candidate be there? Or what's most strategic? And this is us at the Pride Festival in St. Pete. It's this huge, festival that happens every year. And so, we said there's no pride in genocide. And we came out there with, the demand for reparations, unity through reparations, and had our contingent as part of that parade. So
Find the events. All right, so media coverage. It's important to note that despite how bold and groundbreaking your campaign may seem, and that it should probably be on the front page news of everything, the bourgeois media will work to ice it out. So you have to conduct your own press conferences and do the work to get the media there. In fact, the media, they endorse candidates, you know, like the one of the local journals here, one of the most popular ones, they actually endorse candidates. So, you know, there's no neutral side they play or anything like that. They are working for the big money just as the politicians are. So you got to create the space. So press conferences, TV ads, bold demonstrations. We have access to the radio airwaves now. So these are all the different things that we can be doing to really get this campaign out there and increase its visibility. And I'm going to skip this video, but I just want to say that in 2017, because we were the first reparations campaign in the world, we were covered in Ebony magazine. We were mentioned on the popular radio show, The Breakfast Club, which this is a thumbnail for. The Breakfast Club is, you know, this popular kind of like web and radio broadcast. And, you know, this person pictured here was one of the mayoral candidates running at the same time. And they were in response to the reparations demand, you know, had, you know, made this really insulting remark that we got our reparations in the form of Obama. And so our campaign as a consequence, you know, made this coverage and on this platform. So that's how contagious and really important this campaign and what it was that we were doing with the reparations demand through it was. So be bold, shatter the decorum. If you have never attended a candidate's debate as a candidate, and when you first go into it, you'll learn that they have all these rules, and a lot of them, most of the times, are made up just because you're there. As in those rules didn't exist there anymore in the first place, but they changed the rules because you were participating. And that's certainly what, you know, we experienced. And in that, you know, they have these confines and where you're supposed to, you know, they don't even call them debates because it's not a debate, it's a forum. You're just coming and saying who you are and getting the people to know you. Well, how do you distinguish yourselves from everybody that's the exact same? And so you are debating when you're the only person up there that's not agreeing with everybody else and to go along. Then you are debating. You are in a debate. You have something else to say and something else to offer than the opposition, than the status quo. So you're going to have to be bold, and you're going to shatter whatever decorum that they say they want to keep. We eliminate all of that by virtue of having our presence there and by bringing the African working class into the discussion. So this is a photo of us at the Hilton Hotel in downtown St. Pete. This is where they had to call over 20 carloads of cops to come and descend on us because they could not control what the discussion was going to be about. And this is just another image, very iconic image of the chairman, you know, pointing directly at, you know, these mayoral candidates. We call them the two Ricks, the two-headed Ricks, you know, so this was very, very powerful. And you can see this is not your typical forum or debate, and it was never supposed to be, because we cannot allow business as usual. And so they would like to contain the discussion and keep it to where they you know, can control it, but we took it from them, and that's why they brought the police into the process. So this is us again at the Hilton Hotel, and there's the chairman on the bottom left there. So all out outreach, again, very critical aspect of your campaign. So your on the ground strategy has to include door to door. You got to talk to people, doing drops, heavily covering, you know, the community, the precinct, however it's broken down, wherever it is you're running or what you're running for. But, you know, really saturating the area with your literature, heavy level precinct organizing, having precincts and block captains who are responsible for working that area over and over again and winning people. Come to this event, come to my, you know, my house fundraiser party, you know, let's talk about these issues. And this candidate, you know, deals with those questions, really working that community and winning them to support your campaign. So in-house / remote, there's phone banking, there's social media. Also get hip with the technology. Obviously there's Zoom, but I'm even speaking specifically about like texting tools, mass texting and communication software that you can purchase. So you can, send out, like a blanket voice message from the candidate and text from the campaign committee. So getting and acquiring all of those tools to help you, get this campaign out through the remote aspects. And then build the team. Don't let your first interaction with a supporter be your last. Ask them to join, bring them on board onto any of the campaign committees. You will find that those people who are, so excited to see this campaign, to see something that's different from everything they are often confronted with, they want to be a part of that, and they want to know what they can do, even if it's just going door to door, answering phones or making those calls. They want to be a part of it, and you should extend the opportunity for them to join and to play some kind of role. And this is us out, doing outreach, getting people to sign up and say, yes, we're voting. So hosting candidate meet and greets. Again, we're going to be, if you are newly running for office, then you might be running up against name recognition and issues with name recognition. So you have to create the opportunities to get your candidate out there as broadly as possible. So meet and greets are really great ways for people to get to know the candidates, and it's a way for you to bring the candidates to a certain place or location where you can get a certain amount of people to. So encourage your campaign supporters / volunteers to host an event to help raise resources and introduce their friends, their families, and neighbors to your campaign.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, I'm gonna be quick. Okay, and one thing I want to say too about our campaigns is that we had people come up to us and say that they initially were not on board with our campaign, but they had to acknowledge or what it is that we were putting forward. Like, they wouldn't vote for us, but they said, but you are the reason, like, we never really had to talk about reparations before, and now we're talking about it. I mean, that's something that we did. We put reparations out there, building on the movement that had already put reparations out there, made it a household word, and we just built on that. And now we had to, we required people to have discussions about reparations over family dinner, something they normally never have to do. So that's how important these campaigns were. And as we talk about moving to the war of ideas, this is just, something that we were actively doing as we were raising up these campaigns. So this is some of our literature, our yard signs, door hangers. Really the possibilities are limitless here. Any way you can get the information out, have it posted up somewhere, use it, print it, get it done and distribute it. We can keep going. These are just some examples of flyers that we use for like our town halls, our forums, things that we did on our own because the Hilton Hotel was not hosting a forum about what about the Black community. So that's something that we did, as a campaign. Next. Debate tactics. So I wish I could say more about this, but I'm gonna condense it to say, first of all, know your platform, back and forth. Know the issues like the back of your hand, and work to do this presentation under 5 minutes and work your way down to even being able to present your point in 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I say 1 minute and 30 seconds because that's all you need to go viral, right? And you're able to put out the issues, the whole program, the whole campaign in that moment. And also that's often the only time you'll get to actually be able to answer questions, during a debate or what they call a forum. So learn how to do that. There's an art to doing that, capturing the whole extent of your campaign into literally 1 minute and 30 seconds, but it is possible. So we can go to next. And then summations are really important. So, continue to sum up your performance, what it is that you did well, what you need to do better. This is a summation that we have here that was being led by the chairman to help us understand, okay, again, this is what we did well, this is what we have to improve on. Continue summing up, not just debates, but the whole campaign. Every opportunity you have to sum up to perfect your strategy. And then you have to have your get out the vote strategy. So just some things I'll say, you know, on election day, you want to make sure that people are prepared to be at the different polling places throughout the city. Have people arranged to be the transportation of people. If you have mail-in ballots where you are, have somebody who's able to get those mail-in ballots and take them to the polls. Also, have people on the phones calling people that you missed, calling your maybes on the fences, etc. Have people calling, and have your sound vehicles, playing, vote for me, those kind of things. Be out there. You have to be the most visible you've ever been on election day. So make sure all of that is staffed, well prepared, and ready to go. We can keep going. And politicians don't change the world. The power is in the people. So, the people are everything. They're the ones who are going to make this happen. As the chairman said, we can't have freedom unless Black people agree that we are going to be free. So that's what we're out there winning, the power in the people, building that social movement. So we can go. And then this was a quote from the chairman, because we didn't win in 2017 or in 2019, but we did build a powerful movement based in the African working class of St. Petersburg. And more than that, we continue to build on the history of the reparations demand, continuing to massify that, a demand heard all throughout the world, and something that African people, recognize and are fighting for, to this day. So we intervened extremely well in this process, to the point where just years later, on July 29th, 2022, the FBI will come and bang down the chairman's door, my door, and the doors of Uhuru movement leaders, because of, how effective we were in using their strategy, which is normally used to contain and strip Africans of political power. We use it to expose the sham of democracy and advance the actual interest and agenda of African people. So Uhuru comrades, thank you so much. I'm turning it back over to St. Pete. Uhuru.